Okay.
It's not cold enough, it's supposed to get up in the 60s.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
All right, I'll take that. Thank you. And we are ready to rock and roll.
So I'm gonna do most of
Okay.
it. Yeah. I'll come in when, or,
Yep.
Let me just.
for some reason, when we filmed the design consortium, I was so nervous. It was really weird.
You're not now?
Not now.
Good.
Let me just check audio.
Need me to
Either
sing?
One of you guys can tell me what you had for breakfast.
What do we have? A protein shake?
Protein
Coffee?
shake, coffee.
That was about it.
Okay.
I had oatmeal, thank you.
You had a protein shake and oatmeal?
I do it every meal.
That's a lot of calories.
Oh, we're good.
Yeah, it's gonna be like this all morning.
Okay. So just project, speak loudly, and then repeat the answer, the question and the answer. So if I say, what is your name? My name is.
Okay.
What did you have for breakfast? I had for breakfast.
Oh,
To
okay.
give context.
Gotcha,
Okay.
gotcha.
And there's no right or wrong. If you want to stop at any point, it's fine.
Okay.
So tell me your names and who you guys are.
Go first.
I am Ned Drew. I'm a professor of graphic design at Rutgers University, Newark. Oh, my name, I didn't repeat the question.
Okay.
And we're off to a great start.
My name is Ned Drew, and I am a professor of graphic design at Rutgers University, Newark.
My name is Brenda McManus, and I am a assistant professor of graphic design at Pace University in Lower Manhattan.
You guys can look right at this camera.
Yeah, I wasn't
This
sure where to
one?
look.
Yeah, look at
Okay.
this one. Sorry about that. Are you guys Newark natives? If yes, how long have you, if no, how long have you been here and what brings you here?
Well, I have a lifelong history with Newark.
You have to repeat the
Oh.
question.
Sorry.
Are you a Newark resident? And-
Or you could just say, I'm not from Newark, but.
Yeah, I'm not from Newark, but I do have a lifelong history with the city of Newark. My parents are immigrants from Ireland, and when my father first immigrated here, he was working at Budweiser in Newark, and my parents actually met at McGovern's, a local tavern here, because in the 60s it was a Irish social club, and even though neither of my parents drink, this is where they met. So the city of Newark has been part of my story my whole life, and I went to Rutgers University of Newark for my undergrad studies. So yeah, I've been here quite a while.
I am not a Newark native, but I started teaching at Rutgers Newark 25 years ago, moving up here from Washington, D.C. after graduate school.
Excellent. What inspired the creation of bread? And I'm saying it correctly, right?
Yes. The creation of our studio, Bread, really came out of the two of us wanting to collaborate and work together and really have more creative control over the work that we were doing. It really serves as a experimental lab for us to really work on self-initiated design projects, although on occasion we will take on client work, but for the most part it is our own self-initiated experimental work that we create based off of observations and needs that we identify.
And it was our niece that named it, really, because she kind of put our two names together, and she would call us Bread. So,
When did your love for letterpress begin?
I think I'll take this one. My love for letterpress started probably 30 years ago. In undergraduate down at Virginia Commonwealth University, they had some type and some small presses, and I just kind of liked the physicality of it. And then for the past 30 years, Brenda and I have been collecting at flea markets and other places, wood and lead type. Even when letterpress wasn't as hot, it's really quite pervasive now. But even when it wasn't hot, we were collecting just because the objects themselves are so beautiful. But yeah, the collection that we built over the 20 to 30 years is pretty substantial at this point.
And for me, love of letterpress really started in undergrad here at Rutgers Newark. There was 2 underutilized presses, and was introduced to the process and just instantly fell in love with it. I love the manual process, like trying to problem solve the puzzle aspect of it, and it just created a lot of really free opportunities to be creative. So, and
Yeah,
it's been
and
something that we've really just we've both grown with over for so long. It's just become part of.
Yeah, because the
Who we
presses,
are.
nobody used the presses except special classes or special projects. And it's a really labor-intensive process. So if I was working with students, they kind of had to know what they were going to get into. It's not an easy process whatsoever. So it was rare little bits and pieces until we moved down to Express Newark and moved the presses down there.
Nice. What was the first letter block you collected?
What was the first letter block we collected? I'm not really sure because maybe it's my memory and I just don't remember anything anymore, but I don't remember what the first one was. It could have been image, it could have been, probably was one of the larger letter forms. I know that my sister gave me a large N when we were first dating. I think it was like a long time ago.
But each piece, though, and I think what's really fun about the collection is when we kind of go back through it, there are so many stories and memories attached to them. I couldn't put them in the sequence of when we acquired them, but you know, you remember the place you found it, what we were doing, why we were drawn to it, you know, so they all kind of carry a little narrative, which to us I think is kind of special. You know?
Yeah, because we went to Tokyo and we ran across a lead foundry, a type foundry, and we visited there. And then in Taipei, we went to a lead foundry and collected. And then there's probably, I don't know, out in Los Angeles where my brother and sister are, we would visit there and we'd go to little flea markets or
Just went to
antique stores in
Dublin.
Dublin. Yeah, it just, wherever we would go, we'd be looking for the things because, for the blocks and stuff, because they're normally, they don't come as a full alphabet anymore. People break them apart and sell individual letters, which is kind of a shame. So it's rare to find an entire font. But
Although there are still resources for that,
Yeah.
like letterpress things, and there's a few places where you still can acquire the large.
in the internet, but it's
Yeah.
expensive on the internet.
But the fun part, I think, is kind of rescuing these little, beautiful little pieces in the most random of places. And that for us has been the fun, kind of the hunt for them, so.
Okay. What is your subject? Some of these questions are for sit downs in Newark, so they kind of bounce back and forth between. So when you guys are collecting letters or doing a print, what are some of the subject matters you like to talk about or print about? Yeah.
Well, some of the projects we work on, or concepts for them, are, as Brenda said, self-initiated. Maybe 5 years ago, I did a fictional redesign of the U.S. currency system, just because I don't like the current currency system. It's symmetrical and kind of cliche and dead white guys. So we kind of reconceived them and reprinted them in a more design kind of idea.
Yeah, and some of them truly are personal and self-initiated, like our wedding invites, which we did. We've done student handbook covers. We've done various posters for whether it's our own kind of political views or if it's for, you know, an applied client. Sometimes the blocks are used not in letterpress, but as image in other projects. We did stuff for the city of Newark in which we incorporated a few pieces from the collection really as image rather than a printing block. So it really varies, you know.
And because the blocks are kind of imperfect themselves, they have scratches and marks. Sometimes you want that look and feel, so you can print, then scan, and then bring it into the computer, which is kind of a nice way of using old technology and new technology.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. What is the ABC letterpress book, and how did it begin?
That really, we have to give credit to our son. Like Ned's mentioned, we've been collecting for so long, and I think our dream has always been to really catalog the collection and really do something significant with it, because the beauty of the blocks is when you print them. You know, you want them to be used, you want them to be live, you don't want them just sitting in a drawer collecting dust. So when Drew was born, that's really when the idea kind of came to us. It was, you know, we have this incredibly eclectic collection of letter forms. What do we do with it? And it just sort of made sense, all a book of ABCs, you know, and kind of celebrate that diversity and celebrate the uniqueness of the collection. Now from that thought to the actual printing of the book took a solid 5 years. For a lot of reasons. One, it's a massive undertaking. It was going to be a massive time commitment, and we knew that. And so there's never the right window. But I think for us, the timing really came through when we realized that he was at a stage where he really could benefit from what we were doing. He was starting to read, he was starting to recognize, you know, letters and groupings of letters, and that really kind of became the push we needed to really sort of jump in and say, we're going to do this. So.
Yeah, because it was a full summer commitment. I mean, we had 20 students plus, some from Pace, some from Rutgers helping out, and we were just during the summer, at some point in the summer, we were going 24/7. Because in the summer is when we can get it done. Once school starts, both of us get kind of crazy. He's back in school. So it was, Nick Klein actually allowed us to stay in his apartment. So we were here, living in Newark for 5 weeks, I think. So it was an intense project. And back to the question that you had mentioned or had asked, for me it was like I knew that a child would change our lives. And so this one big project in the back of my head I really wanted to try to achieve. So looking for the right time to do it, it just so happened that this summer everything kind of fell in line.
Yeah, and having a child really kind of opens your eyes to a lot of new opportunities because they are learning, everything's so new to them, and it forces you to kind of rethink everything you know and think you understand. And when you're forced with sort of questions of why on a daily basis or an hourly basis, you begin to really think about that and think about what are these opportunities and how can we as designers create solutions for some of these or methods that'll help find solutions. So.
And there's a little bit of a, I don't know, kind of a cliche component to it, but like, well, you're doing an ABC for your child. I mean, we used to joke that he'd get it when he was 18 because it was going to take so long. And I'm not 100% sure he completely understands it at this point, but it is kind of an artifact that means a great deal to us in terms of design and production and the event, and hopefully it will mean something to him. So cliche in one way, kind of corny in one way, but really I think something that is fairly unique, and we're really grateful to have the opportunity to do something like that.
So you mentioned that the book is for your son, but is there a more broader audience or just more general audience that this book could be for? Like, who is it for outside of your son?
So the book was initially conceived with the inspiration of our son, but there's really a lot of avenues for it. The printed artifact, the limited edition letterpress book. In reality, do you want children playing with this book? No. It's a, you know, it's a labor of love. Yes, it's for children, but it's also for letterpress enthusiasts. It's also for designers. It's also for people that have an appreciation for
Typographers.
craft, for type. So really, we kind of joke that the audience is really from ages 2 to 100 because it does offer a broad spectrum. Now, we also, our intent is to produce a commercial version of the book. Commercially printed book, in which then, yes, the audience would be for children, because it is a learning tool as well. So, you know, for us, it serves kind of two ends of the spectrum. One, the artifact itself and kind of the beauty and appreciation of the process and how this was made. And then the other end of it, which is the concept behind it and the way in which it's designed and the structure, and for a tool for learning to read. So I hope that covers.
Very cool. You talked about the process of it taking your summer, but can you talk us through the process for someone who might not understand letterpress or has no concept of what that is? Like, what is the process of actually creating something like this?
The process, and I can then give it over to you. The process of creating the book was really intense. So we have this collection and we don't necessarily know everything that we have. So what we did, along with a couple of students, is we printed everything in black on these sheets, just kind of ganged up everything. And then we took those sheets and we scanned them in so that we digitized them. And then we created this massive folder system where all the scans reside, you know, in the A folder and the B folder. And then the two of us started to, you take this spread, I'll take this spread, and started to design each letter form. Each spread addresses a letter. And so sometimes we found that we had all that we needed and more, and sometimes we found that we were a little thin. Probably a little thinner in the images. So sometimes we would either go out and purchase an image or actually create an image. So the pre-production, before we even got on the press, was a good 12 months working with students, organizing printing, organizing scanning, organizing designing. And because it's self-initiated, there's no client telling us it has to be done. That's a good thing and that's a bad thing. Probably a bad thing because it went on for longer than it probably should have. But then I think it's fair to say, you can kind of talk about this, the printing process took altogether about 6 months, 7 months.
7 months, yeah. But the back and forth and the design part really was dictated by the collection. You know, there's the limitations and the parameters of the collection. You know, we're working with what we have. And that was good and bad. I'd say mostly good because it kind of gave us some defined guidelines to fall with. Also the limitations of the press, right? So the press beds are only so large, so you have to figure out how we're going to do this. You know, we knew we wanted to print 2 at a time on each press, so we had to figure out the measurements and what those paper sizes would be. So there were a lot of limitations that really helped us define the design. And then the colors, figuring out which colors we wanted. We knew we wanted to work with the primary colors because of it being the building blocks and kind of working within the concept of these beginner levels for children and reading. So I think the most freedom we really had was with the small text and kind of the sentences and sort of the silly phrases that we'd come up with. And that was a lot of fun. But it was a lot of back and forth. You know, we would just, you know, he'd work on something, send it to me, I'd work on something, send it to him. We'd kind of keep going back and forth until we both agreed, like, yeah, this feels like it's in a good place.
And because I mentioned this earlier, that we don't have complete fonts, a lot of the letter forms are kind of unique. There's like an A that we don't have the rest of the alphabet. So it has a look and feel of a very eclectic, in terms of the topography, very eclectic look and feel, which